Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for finding us. We have a couple people. We haven't really advertised this meeting too much yet. It's been listed on our site. We will make sure we get it into the bulletin coming up as well. But I'm recording this, so we can post this on our website. Probably don't really need to do roll call. I know everyone there. All right. First up, fall work days. This was in the bulletin last week. It is also listed in the calendar section of our site, which is also where the district meeting is listed. And so this is pretty finalized. I suppose a few might still pop in.
I think that this pretty much firmed up. Yeah.
All right. That's Jenny here, by the way.
You'll have a NDE staff member, help desk member, and the ESU support member at each one of those.
Yep. So, and we'll just be really concentrating on getting your fall data set up. The Advisor Resources website, we had this up last time we met, but just a reminder, this is a good URL to bookmark, just like, we've had the NSSRS Resources website for a long time, that's where the student manual gets posted. I would recommend getting familiar with this site. We've made some changes lately. We've added these little accordion menu things, try to make everything look a little nicer. Since the last time we talked on this meeting, last time we previewed the 1819 changes document. Now that document's pretty finalized. We're certainly not going to make any other changes to the database now that it has been released. So you can go look at that document. The data elements document, we continue to put little tweaks in there. There is the calendar document, which is mostly finalized. Certainly all the data collection information in it is finalized. Just want to point out that, the staff reporting has not changed at all. We're still using the same staff reporting system. So, sorry, getting feedback. So just a reminder that there is still an NSSRS follow-up collection where you will still be submitting those template files. It's a little different this year in that we packed all the follow-up data into one collection that we hope to get done by the end of October. So all your 17-18 data officially still comes from NSSRS. And as always, we will be adding more things to the Advisor Resources website in the future. We will remove some things from the Google site here and kind of clean that up and put the important stuff onto this website. That Google site we'll keep using though for things like the calendar here and and the agendas and recordings of this meeting. No reason to move those. All right, so the 1819 rollover. So the advisor ODS, or which is the database, was rolled out. The 1819 one was rolled out on August 1st, but that's kind of just the first step in this whole rollover process. So now that that is available, vendors have to update their systems because, you know, we've made all these changes between 1718 and 1819. So the vendors have to do updates to support that, and you need to hear from your vendor about when that will be ready. And I've got some updates about that later. You can send some of your data without getting that update, but that's really not recommended. I know as soon as you get down to student, I think, or sending your student demographics data, that is not going to work without the latest update. Right now, the advisor validation website has not been rolled over to 1819. We're in the middle of updating all the reports and lookups to all work, and the errors to work with 1819. We're hoping to get that deployed this Friday. But yeah, I would take that with a grain of salt. The dashboard was also rolled over on August 1st, but you have to remember that that means the dashboard really only shows 1 year of data. So once it was rolled over, it's now empty. There's no students in there, and there's no staff data in there. And since there's no staff data, that means you cannot get into the dashboard until you send up your staff data. So dashboard's really not useful to anyone at the moment, but we will be looking at it more later in the fall. The 1718 advisor data is still out there. It's not really meant for you to continue to sync to it, though. Like I said, the 1718 data officially comes from NSSRS. I've left the 1718 advisor data out there for now. It might be useful while we're doing some testing, validation sites, things like that. But some point here in the near future, I will delete it. And so we'll have a clean break from NSSRS to advisor. Yes, have any questions? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Non-reportable schools, I've just kept this on the list. It was here in the last couple of meetings. And vendors are, PowerSchool is now also starting to support this feature, where you can have a school you use in your SIS that the state doesn't recognize typically. Advisor is set up so that you can send data up for that school that we don't recognize, as long as the students in that school are also have a reporting school attached to them, or an infinite campus. They call it a school of assignment. That's the school that the student gets reported to NDE for state purposes. So. Yeah, Lisa was asking about the notifications for 1819. Yeah, I emailed out several emails over the last couple of months to all of the GoEduStar contacts I have. So I think it was Kayla and the other account manager, and I think I also sent it to their main developer. I haven't really heard back from them. Yeah, Ben, thank you. So they're aware, but I really haven't heard much from them. So yeah, at least if you hear anything from them, let me know. Yeah, as far as I know, Go EduStar is not yet ready for 1819. Some more updates about the advisor validation website. We have rolled out the programs lookup that works pretty much the exact same as it did under NSSRS. We've added some new error codes. We've been looking at error codes that are something specifically needed for advisors that didn't really make sense under NSSRS. So it's just a lot of technical things, like if you send us an entry in an enrollment record, if you send us an entry date without an entry reason, or vice versa, you know, that's a problem. You know, just basic things like that. So the next feature for the validation, like I said, the 1819 update is coming soon. We are still looking at that archiving errors feature. I think that will be ready for use during, you know, the fall here. Specifically, by the time we get to the audit window, that should be ready. The district administrator sign off, we're still deciding on what that will look like, but you know, your superintendent will use the validation site to sign off on their fall collection data. And we still have some more reports and error codes to add. We hope to get those up and running here. There's some reports that are a little tricky because they look at this year's data versus last year. So since we're in this transition year, it'll take a little extra work to get that going, because we'll have to look at advisor data to last year's NSSRS data. But, for the important ones, we hope to get those up before the audit window as well. But generally, you know, 80–90% of the reports and error codes that were in NSSRS are up and running on advisor validation, I believe. All right. The NDE help desk, who are here in the room with me. Yeah. So they have officially switched over to JIPIT as the main ticketing system. It's the same one we've been using for advisor now for like 2 years. They are also officially, the contact email is the same advisor contact email we've been using for the past couple of years. It's advisorhelp@nebraskacloud.org. We're in the process of, you know, switching anywhere that says our old NDE.helpdesk email to say that instead. But we know we haven't necessarily got all of those yet. So for the foreseeable future, the old NDE help desk email is still available. Yeah, that was over, wasn't it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So yeah, like if you're on the NDE portal and you go to that help tab where you put in a request, that now goes straight to JIPIT. And then as part of this, we're going to try to keep an eye on all the tickets that are in the system and make sure they're moving along. So I had to go and close about 300 of my old tickets that were probably not valid anymore. There were some that were years old. Obviously, if any of those problems come up again, you go ahead and put in a new ticket, and we will handle it and keep track of it. So right now, I think, you know, there's only a few tickets left in the system, which I'm keeping them in an area. Things that, like, requests about fixes that the dashboard needs. I've set those in special areas, so we're keeping track of those. But yeah, we're keeping up on that a lot better now, thanks to their help. All right, vendor status updates. EduPoint, I haven't heard much from. I see Becky is on here. Becky, have you heard anything about where they're at with 1819? Okay. Going out this week. Nice. Good to hear. I mentioned GoEduStar, not sure where they're at. Infinite Campus, I believe, is hoping to begin their rollouts next week. That may be subject to change, but that's the latest I've heard. I think JMC is also looking at next week. Power School, their big state update for 1819 will be in the August release, which is generally the last Friday of the month. So around or before August 31st will be Power School's release. Besides, yeah, supporting 1819, that'll have changes for the reporting school and should be fixing the issue they were having with calendars. Like that. Sims, I believe, is already ready. Anna's ready to send hers up whenever. And SRS, I think, is ready soon. They don't have to do much to support 1819. They may have been working on a few tweaks. But we have to keep in mind that SRS only sends up SPED data, and you can only send up SPED data once you've sent up that enrollment record for the student. So the enrollment record claims the student and says, this student is in my district. And so only after that happens can SRS then say, and here's their SPED record. If that hasn't happened yet, you can see the records in SRS. I think they'll be marked with like an error that says they haven't synced up with Advisor yet. And once you send that other data up, then they're free to go. All right, so I believe we are aiming for the second Wednesday of every month for these meetings. I'm recording them, I'll be posting them, and the agendas on that website there. So our next meeting is scheduled for September 12th. I think that's all I wanted to cover today. A lot of content packed in there. Does anyone have any other questions they would like to ask? All right. Well, thanks for joining, and we will talk to you again next month.